What you are about to hear is a forecast. It's a synthesis of current military movements, geopolitical tensions, and honestly, some pretty glaring vulnerabilities. This isn't fear-mongering. This is pattern recognition. Tonight, we're connecting the dots between multiple flashpoints, from naval standoffs in the Caribbean to the rise of authoritarian strongmen and the escalating war on cartels. We're talking about the very real possibility of a multi-front conflict that could erupt in our own backyard, pitting regional powers against each other and drawing in global players. So, strap in. To understand how war could ignite, you first have to smell the smoke. And right now, the air is thick with it. The pieces are in motion. As we speak, the United States has deployed a formidable naval task force to the Caribbean, complete with guided missile destroyers and a nuclear-powered attack submarine. Officially, they're there for counter-narcotics operations, with President Donald Trump's administration already conducting strikes on suspected Venezuelan drug boats. But, a sledgehammer is not a surgical tool. This is a broad range of military options positioned off the coast of a volatile nation. Juan Gonzalez, the top Latin America official in the previous Biden administration, warns that the United States could be stumbling toward a disastrous intervention in Venezuela. He fears the situation could spiral into a protracted guerrilla war, drawing in a complex mix of armed groups, including Colombian rebels and powerful criminal organizations. The United States is effectively treating Venezuelan traffickers as narco-terrorists, placing them on the same legal footing as ISIS or the Houthis, a controversial and honestly escalatory move. At the same time, the hemisphere's largest naval exercise, known as UNITAS, is underway. It's involving 25 countries and about 8,000 personnel. This massive show of force is taking place just as Russia and China have been expanding their military and economic footprints in a region long considered the United States' sphere of influence. But, the powder keg isn't just in the Caribbean. It's also in the northern countries of Central America, where a tense struggle is unfolding between democratic ideals and authoritarian impulses. And, one nation has really become the model for this new, hardline approach: El Salvador. President Nayib Bukele has solidified an authoritarian project, with the state of exception as its central pillar. This measure, suspended for over 2 years, has led to mass incarcerations and the suspension of fundamental constitutional rights, all in the name of security. Interestingly, his model is immensely popular and is being emulated from Argentina to Ecuador. Crucially, Bukele has positioned himself as a key ally for the United States in its regional crackdown. The United States has designated the Salvadoran-rooted Barrio 18 as a foreign terrorist organization, expanding its legal tools. Furthermore, the Trump administration agreed to pay El Salvador $6 million to house hundreds of Venezuelan deportees accused of being gang members in the Maximum Security Terrorism Confinement Center, or CCOT. These men were sent there without trial, with Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem stating they should remain there for the rest of their lives. This partnership has fused the U.S. immigration crackdown with El Salvador's harsh carceral state. Just north, Honduras is, mimicking the script, but with far more instability. President Xiomara Castro, facing declining popularity and rising violence, has also imposed a state of exception. The country remains one of the most violent in the region, plagued by corruption, powerful gangs like MS-13, and evidence of expanding drug trafficking. Tensions between the branches of government are escalating, with Castro herself accusing the armed forces and Congress of conspiring behind a coup plot. This is a nation on a hair trigger. All it needs is a spark. The spark doesn't come from a conventional invasion. It's, more insidious. It's late 2026. A spontaneous popular uprising, called the Darien Liberation Front, erupts in the remote, lawless border region between Panama and Colombia. Almost immediately, they show terrifying competence. Brand new Russian small arms, sophisticated drones, and complex ambushes executed with professional precision. Critical infrastructure is hit, including a precision strike on a key power substation for the Panama Canal. Then comes the so-called invitation. The government of Nicaragua, citing a fraternal duty to protect the oppressed, and with the backing of Caracas, announces it is sending a humanitarian and security stabilization force to assist the Darien front. It's a classic hybrid warfare playbook, a deniable insurgency, followed by a legitimate intervention. U.S. intelligence satellites capture armored columns mobilizing. The narrative war is already being won by state-sponsored media, blaming provocative U.S. military postures. The United States response is called Operation Guardian Concord, which is a multinational coalition aiming to restore Panamanian sovereignty. The first blow is, well, silent and invisible. Cyber attacks plunge command centers into darkness. Then, the aerospace canopy descends. MQ-9 Reaper drones, piloted all the way from Nevada, begin a relentless hunt for invading columns in the jungle. But the other side has its own tricks. The conflict turns truly ugly. A United States Navy destroyer is forced to obliterate a suicide drone boat off the coast of Venezuela. The Cartel de los Soles, a designated terrorist group, has just entered a state-on-state conflict. The lines between cartel and military have evaporated. Then, the unthinkable. A United States F-35 is shot down by a next-generation Russian surface-to-air missile system, operated by advisors who are clearly not Latin American. The pilot is captured on live television. The war has just gone from a proxy conflict to a direct confrontation with a near-peer adversary, fought by proxy in the jungles of Central America. The United States mainland is no longer a sanctuary. Let's pause the strategy talk for a moment. Let's talk about the real cost. The conflict creates the worst humanitarian catastrophe in the Western Hemisphere since World War II. We are not talking about thousands of refugees. We are talking about millions. A human tsunami begins the long, perilous journey north toward the United States. The United States-Mexico border completely collapses under the strain. In countries adjacent to the conflict, the thin veneer of civilization wears away. Governments lose control. Gangs seize the opportunity, transforming into warlord factions. Looting, starvation, and vigilante justice become the norm. The fighting in the biodiverse Darien Gap creates an ecological nightmare. Forest fires, chemical contamination, and a crippled canal. Back in the United States, the home front feels the shockwaves immediately. The closure of the Panama Canal forces global shipping onto much longer routes. The price of everything, well, it skyrockets. Inflation goes vertical. Supply chains for critical goods break down. Supermarket shelves begin to empty within days. The scenes of panic buying during COVID-19 are repeated, but this time there's no end in sight. The very social contract is tested. Conventional wisdom said any war involving the United States would be over in weeks. Conventional wisdom was wrong. The conflict bogs down into a brutal stalemate on multiple fronts. It's a grinding war of attrition now, full of ambushes, IEDs, drone strikes, and, propaganda on all sides. The American public starts to grow weary as the body bags come home and, well, the economy just keeps getting worse. The breakthrough, honestly, isn't some glorious military victory. Instead, it's a back-channel deal that changes everything. So, the terms are, well, messy. A demilitarized zone gets established. and the pre-war government of Panama is brought back, but they're basically forced to grant autonomy to that rebellious region. Sanctions are, lifted. The United States agrees to scale back its permanent military footprint. Honestly, nobody wins here. Hundreds of thousands are dead, and millions more are displaced. Trillions of dollars in wealth have just, evaporated. The peace, if you can even call it that, isn't really a peace at all. It's just a temporary ceasefire. All those underlying tensions are still there, just smoldering beneath the surface, waiting for the next spark. So why did we go through this dark journey? For a very simple reason. The seeds of this future are planted in the soil of your today. This isn't about building a bunker and waiting for the end. It's about understanding the deep, interconnected currents of global events so you can navigate the rapids. Your game plan must be built on pillars of resilience. First, financial resilience. In our scenario, cash in the bank lost purchasing power by the hour. This is why we diversify into tangible assets, gold and silver for preservation, but also barter goods, ammunition, antibiotics, fuel. In a crisis, these are currency. Second, supply chain independence. You saw how quickly the shelves emptied. A 6-month food and water supply isn't alarmist, it's prudent. A deep pantry is your personal strategic reserve. Learn to produce your own. Alright, third on our list is energy security. When the gas pumps run dry, your life, it pretty much grinds to a halt. Having a store of fuel, safely and legally, is a massive advantage, no doubt about it. Now let's think bigger. Solar panels, generators. The ability to power your home and pump your water makes you a node of stability. That's something worth considering. Moving on to our fourth point, community and security. You cannot do this alone, my friends. The lone wolf is a dead wolf. In a crisis, your neighbors are your first line of defense and your source of skills. So, build those relationships now. Trust is the currency of crisis, and it's invaluable. And part of protecting that community is, having a plan for security. Train, plan, and be prepared to defend what is yours. Finally, the most important asset: knowledge. All the gear in the world is honestly useless without the know-how to use it. Learn practical skills, take a first aid course. Learn how to fix things, how to grow things, how to purify water. Knowledge is the one prep you can't loot, and it weighs nothing. The goal is not to live in fear of the future, but to build a life that is resilient and independent enough to face whatever the future holds with confidence. The storm may come, or it may not, but the man who builds his house on rock sleeps soundly through the rain. The world is changing, the old order is shifting, it's time to get ready. For Prepper Nation Z, I'm your host. Stay vigilant, stay prepared by getting your long-term food supplies from ReadyWise, links in the description, and we'll see you on the other side.